Let's have a look at Section 6 of ISO 9001. This deals with resource management. Now, previously in Section 4, the requirement was that top management provide the resources to establish and operate the quality management system. So Section 6 now elaborates that a little bit more about what resources it's talking about. Now, these are the resources to operate the quality management system, not the resources necessary to do the product realization, which comes in Section 7. So in the provision of the resources, the organization shall determine and provide the resources needed to implement and maintain the quality management system and continually improve its effectiveness, and to enhance customer satisfaction by meeting the customer requirements. So the resources, we'll deal with a certain amount of the resources soon, but we're not talking about only money, we're talking about other things as well. Human resources is the first one, Section 6.2. Personnel performing work affecting conformity to product requirements shall be competent on the basis of appropriate education, training, and experience. In other words, they have to actually know and understand a certain amount about quality management. Not necessarily product realization, but they do have to understand about quality management so that they know what's required to operate the quality management system. Now, competence, training, and awareness is further listed there, and the organization shall determine the necessary competence for personnel performing work affecting conformity to product requirements, so they have to know what they're doing. If that's measuring or testing or inspections, recording information, they have to be competent and know what they're doing about it all. Where applicable, there should be training provided. There's also a requirement to evaluate the effectiveness of the actions taken. So if it's determined that somebody actually needs some training, all right, well, then there's a requirement to train them. But there's also a requirement to determine that training has been effective. You can't just sort of go through the motions and say, oh, well, they've been trained now, so they should be all right. You have to determine that it has actually been effective. The competence, awareness, and training also has to ensure that its personnel are aware of the relevance and importance of their activities and how they contribute to the achievement of quality outcomes. Also must maintain appropriate records. These normally would be records of the training, records of their general activities. But note the first one I spoke about, and that is the personnel should be aware of the importance of what they do, how that contributes to it. Now, this usually is sort of treated rather lightly because if the quality management system is working, life is pretty boring. But as in the case of major mishaps, then life can get pretty exciting very quickly when there is an inquiry about, well, how did that happen? We're supposed to have a quality management system in place, and it's supposed to prevent this, and it didn't. And what happened? Why? As I say, life gets pretty exciting when that goes on. Section 6.3, we've dealt with the personnel in Section 6.2, they've got to be there. Section 6.3 deals with the infrastructure of the quality management system. So the organization shall determine, provide, and maintain the infrastructure needed to achieve conformity to product requirements. Now, infrastructure includes, as appropriate, buildings, workspace, and associated utilities. So, if you need water, you have to have water. If you need a cool environment or a sterile environment, this is what is required. Process equipment, so both hardware and software. So, if you are supposed to be doing some particular test that requires specific equipment, that has to be provided. You can't. Essentially, the purpose of this clause is to say that you have to determine what equipment is essential, not what's desirable, what's essential. And the top management is obliged or required to provide the equipment essential to run the quality management system. The work environment. The organisation shall determine and manage the work environment needed to achieve conformity to product requirements. All right, so you have to have the personnel, they have to have the infrastructure, and the work environment has to enable them to do what they are required to do, and that is to assess and ensure product quality. Or sorry, they don't have to assure product quality. They have to assure the operation of the quality management system.